Hey everybody, it's Kyle. Hey, I want to welcome you to our Facebook Live event. Today we're going to talk about how to thrive in chaos as you raise kids on the autism spectrum. And really this is about lowering stress and tension in your home. And by default, really what that'll do for you is it'll increase the peace and happiness in your home. And I'm guessing if you're here, this is not the first time you've thought about this. You've probably looked into ways to create a happier family. But if you've looked at a million different things and you find there's still a bit too much stress and tension in your home, I want you to know you're not alone. Way too many families are experiencing way too many difficulties. So the first thing I want to tell you is that it's not your fault. There's a lot of information out there. There's a lot of misinformation out there, and it's easy to get confused. So I'm also guessing if you're here that you've probably worked very, very hard to try and solve those difficulties. And maybe nothing has worked so far. So you're still kind of trying to figure out what to do. So I want to put your fears to rest. That's the second thing I want to do, is put your fears to rest and let you know that you can do this. You just need the right person to show you how. And if you're like us, like our family, you've worked with a lot of experts and you've tried almost everything. But here's the thing, they're all missing pieces. And you probably know that. And if they weren't missing pieces, you probably wouldn't even be here. You'd probably already be thriving as a family. But that's why you're here. So today what we're going to do is we're going to fill in some of those missing pieces that are keeping you from thriving to the full extent you can as a family. So my goal for this event is pretty simple. I want to show you how to lower the stress and tension in your home. And like I said, by default, that's going to increase happiness. And at the end, you're going to know how to do that. You're going to know what you can do today. And you're going to know some undiscovered secrets that we learned as a family as we went through this process. So this presentation is for two types of families. Is if you're struggling mightily right now, if you find yourself pretty consistently saying, I don't think I can take this anymore, or I don't know if I can do this, this presentation is for you. We're going to help you through that. And if you're doing pretty good as a family, the second type of family, if you're doing pretty good, but occasionally there's these incredible meltdowns that make it just so difficult to manage, and it just throws your family out of whack for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, this presentation is going to help you too. So I want to start really by telling you a little bit about our family. My name is Kyle Jetzel, like I said, and I'm a happily married father of 6. We have 6 kids, like I said. Our oldest 2 are Alec and Zach. Alec is 23, Zach is 21, and they're typical boys. We have our 2 sons on the spectrum. That's Eric, who just turned 18 this past week, 2 weeks ago, and Ricky, who's now 15. We have 2 typical twins, boy and a girl. And we have a pretty happy family. We've actually written a book. It's called Thrive in Chaos. If you look it up, you can find it on Amazon. It's easy to find it. We blog. Our blog is called 1in110.com, where we have over 30,000 registered followers. And we speak at conference. And basically what's happened to us is we've become the go-to family, the go-to experts when families want to thrive. Families watch us to see how we're thriving because they see what they want to have in their families. We do Facebook videos. We do almost a Facebook video a day. If you go to Autism Laughter Therapy, our Facebook page, you'll find over 400 videos showing you our family, talking about tips and techniques, showing you the happiness we experience in our family. And we've taught hundreds how to thrive. And we have developed and created the type of family that my wife and I dreamed about when we first got married. Just this weekend, I'm going to give you a quick, because just this weekend we've done some really fun stuff. Friday night, it was late, and my wife and I finally got all the kids to bed. It was probably 11:30, and my wife's cell phone rings, and it's my son from college, Alec. And he called to talk to my wife, to tell her he missed her, to tell her he loved her. And it was pretty powerful to me to understand that here's a boy who's having the greatest time he can at college, but takes the time to call us and talk to us. And he said he misses us and he can't wait to be home. And I think it's next weekend he's coming home for the summer to work and make some more money so he can go back to college. And what a great thing that is. That was Friday night. So Saturday, my wife and I wanted to go garage sale shopping. So my number 2 son, who lives with us, usually tries to work, he was home. And he said, go ahead, Dad and Mom, go do some garage sale shopping, have some fun. I'll take care of the kids. And when we got, now remember, we've got 5 other kids, Zach and his 3 little brothers and 1 sister. And he took care of them. He wasn't worried. He was courageous and knew what to do. And then when we got home, he said, I'm going to take them all to the dollar store. And it was just so much fun to see them come back happy and excited and having so much fun together. And don't think for one second things can go horribly wrong at the dollar store, because they can. But Zach is so comfortable that he knows how to handle it. And that's the kind of happiness we have in our home. Then just this morning, I was at church and I was asked to do something before church started. And so I left my two twins at the back of the room, and Ricky was an usher. He does that at church. And so I'm up at the front of the chapel, and I look back and I see Ricky doing his ushering job, and he gives me the thumbs up. And it just made me smile. And then I look back at my twins, who are on the very back row, and they gave me each one of these and smiled real big. And so I did it back. And it really started to make me understand how happy they are and how much we're really thriving as a family. Simple things like that are so important in our lives to make sure we're doing well and giving our kids what they need. But I want you to know it wasn't always that way. There was a time in our lives when we were in real trouble. And believe me, we tried everything. We went to experts. We tried therapies. We read books. We went to workshops. We applied every trick and technique we could possibly imagine to try to thrive. And we worked with the best people there were out there. And we had the bills to prove it. We spent hundreds upon thousands of dollars trying to create a family where there was happiness and love. But it wasn't working. There was still so much tension in our home. We had become like a slave to autism. And you probably know what I mean. You're walking around on eggshells. You can't go anywhere. You can't do anything. You're losing friends. There's a pit in your stomach when you wake up thinking, oh my gosh, what's going to happen today? I mean, it's really kind of scary when you're coming home from work. I would every time I get a call from my wife at work, I'd be so concerned that things were going wrong, and I had to get home as quick as possible because there was these meltdowns. It was really, really hard, and it probably sounds very familiar to you. Now, don't get me wrong. There were good times, but there were so many difficult, tension-filled experiences, and we were surrounded by so much stress that we felt like we were on this awesome roller coaster. Now, you may know what I'm talking about, right? You ever been on a roller coaster and you start going up and it's click, 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 and you start to get a little nervous. The higher you go, the more concerned and scared you get. Then when you're at the top and you look around, it's so exhilarating, right? And then all of a sudden, you go down the other side, and it's so scary and it's so frightening, and you're flipping around and going through loops, and you're dizzy and your head's snapping back and forth. It's just, and that's really what was happening in our lives. I mean, I can remember a time when Eric, my 18-year-old, was 6 years old, and I worked with him, and I got him to say to his mother, he said, I love you. And I remember my wife's head's almost exploded. We were so excited. It was this peak of the autism roller coaster. And 2 days later, he smashed his head through a glass window. And I can remember while I was holding him at the hospital, holding him still, wanting me to get stitches. The idea that he told his mom that he loved him was completely gone, and it was so overwhelmed by the despair and the frustration of holding him still as he fought me to get those stitches. You know, another time I remember we finally potty trained him, and he was 9 years old. And believe me, this was a big deal for us. We had a 9-year-old and a 7-year-old and 2-year-old twins in diapers. I mean, there was diapers everywhere. And we finally got him potty trained, and we were so excited. And our heads were just filled with excitement, and we were hugging each other. And then within a week, he made a violent run at me. He tried to hurt my wife and I. It was this horrible autism roller coaster. And then one Saturday morning, our roller coaster went completely off the rails. But about 6:30 in the morning, we were awakened by screaming and yelling, and it was a severe meltdown. And it lasted and lasted. And we'd get him to calm down, and then we'd go right back into it. And it was a 4-hour down one Saturday morning. It was so hard. And what ended up happening is my wife and I got into this big argument. But sometimes I think we want to blame somebody. And we turn on each other sometimes. And so this is what happened with my wife and I. And we had this terrible argument. And it lasted and lasted and lasted. And at one point I thought, this is not stopping. So I went outside to cool off, which wasn't like me. And I thought to myself, our family's done. Sorry. I was scared because I thought our lives as a family were over. we couldn't continue like this. I knew it was a tipping point in our lives. If we kept doing this, it was going to destroy my wife and relationship. It was going to destroy our family. And I can remember recalling a story my dad told me when I was younger. And he said, son, don't go down. If something matters, don't go down without a fight. Give it everything you have. Don't go down without a fight. And so I thought to myself, this isn't what I signed up for. But you know what? I'm not going down without a fight. So I walked over under a big pecan tree in our front yard, and I knelt under that pecan tree and I started praying because I didn't know what else to do. So I went back inside and I told my wife, this isn't what I signed up for. And when she said it back to me, I knew we had to do something. At that moment, God had tapped us on the shoulder. He had tapped me on my shoulder and said, don't you give this family up. And so my wife and I decided at that moment that we were going to do something. We didn't know what to do, but we knew we were going to do something. And I remember reading somewhere that you can do anything in this life if you follow these 3 steps. And those 3 steps were pretty simple. It said, know your outcome, take massive action, and adjust as needed. And that's the day we started that process. We knew we weren't going to last unless we did something. You know, and we discovered some very interesting things as we went through this. We discovered what we really needed as a family. It didn't even exist. I mean, remember, we were going through traditional strategies and therapies and experts and all these different ways of addressing the issue, but they were all missing some vital ingredients in our lives. We knew our outcome. We wanted a happy family. We knew that if we could lower the stress and tension, we could increase the happiness. We could increase the peace in our home. As we took massive action, we got some really undiscovered secrets. And we learned them, and when we started sharing them and getting results and sharing them with others, we realized they worked for all kinds of families. They work for big families like ours with multiple kids on the spectrum. They work for small, single-parent families. They work for families that had kids that were being raised in first marriages. They work for all kinds of families, and they work throughout the entire spectrum. Everything from classic autism all the way to Asperger's syndrome. These techniques and the principles learned worked. And so, for instance, like Wendy's family, you know, she had real issues with her 14-year-old that was Asperger's. And, you know, she mentioned to me the stress was over the moon. And I remember teaching her one principle. And a week later, we got back together and we started talking. And she said, "God, I've got to tell you, I think this has been the best week I've ever had with my son. He even came and hugged me and told me he thought our relationship was getting better." I mean, and even relationships with typical kids and on the spectrum. Recently, I was working with Jennifer. She has a 4-year-old little boy that's on the spectrum that likes to bite and pinch and scratch. And she has a 12-year-old daughter, typical girl. And their relationship had really created a big split because she didn't like to be bitten or scratched or pinched. And started working with them, and within weeks, the relationship between the siblings started to get better. And the mom and the 12-year-old, and the mom and the 4-year-old autism. So, and once you learn these undiscovered secrets, your results are going to be so much easier and so much faster. And remember what those results are, right? Happier family. So I want to share those with you now. The 3 secrets we wish we had known, and they would have saved us tons of time. And believe me, they would have saved us tons of money. But I'll share one last thing with you real quick before I get into 3 secrets. Because we need to be real clear on the outcome. Remember the 3 steps. Know your outcome, take massive action, adjust as needed. The outcome we wanted was lowered stress and tension. And we knew that would increase our happiness in our home and the peace in our home. That's the outcome. And that's what we're talking about, right? When we put our kids in these therapies, when we go to occupational and therapies and language therapies, and when we go to family therapies and we see all these experts, what are we really looking for? We're really looking to have better relationships in our family so that we can lower that stress and tension and increase that peace. So, and that's really our goal, is to help kids and families live happier lives. All those things we're doing are designed with that in mind. And all that stuff is really to create an environment where we can all thrive. And we need to be clear on that. That needs to be the clear outcome for us. So about that. Let's cover now the 3 secrets we learned were vital. So number 1 is you've got to have a recipe for success. Secret number 2 is it must be simplified. Secret number 3 is you need help when it gets hard. So those 3 are, again, you must have a recipe, it must be simplified, and you need help when it gets hard. And let's talk about each of those in a little bit more detail now so I can share with you what we really need to do here. So number 1, we need a recipe for success, right? Remember, we tried everything. We tried family therapies, we tried experts, we tried therapies for our sons, we tried sensory stuff, marriage counseling, family counseling, diets, we tried holistic stuff, we tried all these integrated approaches. I mean, I think if it was out there and it wouldn't harm our child, we were doing it. And don't get me wrong, we appreciated what they did and all the things we learned, but they were all missing a couple of key ingredients. And I'm going to tell you what those ingredients are. Number 1, the information was structured. We'd go, try this, try that. Sometimes they didn't match up, and it was so fractured, we'd say, what do we do first? Oh, we'll try this. What do we do second? Well, try this. And it was so fractured. The information came from so many directions and so many experts telling us so many things that we didn't know what to do and when. And we were confused. And the second thing is that it wasn't always based. Sometimes people would tell us the wackiest, random techniques, and we just thought, oh my gosh, we're kind of scared. We don't even want to try this. I don't even want, if I can't do it with love in my heart and my son, I'm not even trying it. If I can't do things that I know are best for them and best for our family, I'm not trying these things. So they weren't principle-based. They needed to be based on the principles of love and kindness and things that we should do that are best for our child and for our families. So that's number 2. Number 1, the information was fractured. Number 2, it wasn't principle-based. We needed it to be that. And number 3, I think, was the biggest thing of all. They didn't live our lives. They would tell us what to do, and they would go home to typical families, and guess what? We'd go home to chaos. They didn't understand what we were going through. Oh, they thought they did, and they said we've helped lots of families. But you know what? Unless you go home to it and you live with it 24/7, it's really hard for them to understand. You know, it was kind of like, do you remember the show Frasier Crane? It was a Frasier show, and it was a sitcom from the 90s, right? And Frasier Crane was this radio psychiatrist who would give all this great advice on the radio. And then he would go home to his life and it was a mess. He could tell you what to do. He was great at giving advice, right? But not so great at creating the kind of life that he was giving the advice to other people that they should have. And that's what we felt like. All these experts were telling us all this stuff, and we didn't even know if they had happy families with typical families. We had no idea who these people were, and they had no idea what we were going through specifically. And that made it tough. I mean, all the work we put in, all that money, sure, they helped us have some simple successes. I mean, I got Eric to say I love you to his mom, 6 years old. And you know, I mean, these are simple successes, but ultimately we weren't happier as a family. I mean, it was still tough. There was still stress, and so much stress and tension, it was hard to manage it. And you know what? Sometimes all these therapies and all these going to see people would add to our stress. I mean, if you've ever tried to take a kid affected autism to a therapy and they didn't want to go, how much stress is involved in that? It was horrible. You know what I'm talking about, right? Now I'm not going, right? And an hour later, you maybe have them in the car, and then when you get there, they run around the building 5 times before you can get them inside. The stress and tension of getting them to do what we thought would relieve the stress and tension was sometimes overwhelming. Remember, we just wanted to have a happy family. And we realized, so, you know, that's really the key here. The recipe must be principle-based. It must be step-by-step and easy to follow. It can't be fractured. And we want it to be proven by an autism family that's actually thriving. Imagine that. Imagine a family teaching you how to thrive, and they're actually thriving. They've actually tried this stuff. They've actually had success, and they're happy. That's what we wanted. We wanted someone who had the outcome that we wanted. And we knew that was an important part of thriving as a family. So, think about it. You know, I'll never forget, I was talking to Kyra one day, and she said, oh my gosh, she said, Kyle, I'm so glad we're working together because I've spent thousands with a family therapist, and she tells me, you should do this. And I tell her, I know I should do that. Tell me how to do that. And she said, Kyle, you actually tell us how. You give us a step-by-step way to do it. And that's really what we want to have. And then a couple of weeks ago, I talked to Alan and Jen, who we've been working with for a while, and they said, Kyle, we love this because it's easy. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3, right? We follow the steps. We know you experienced what we've experienced, and we try it, and we get results, and we get happiness, and we lower the stress and tension in our home, and that's really what we want. So secret number 1 is simple, right? You need a recipe that's step-by-step, it's well organized, and it's proven in an autism family just like yours, and it'll get you the outcome you want. Now, hopefully that makes sense to you, and I hope it does because it makes sense to us, and that's what we had to have. So secret number 2 is it must be simplified. Listen, we're not geniuses in our family. You know, when we first started this process, my 2 oldest typical sons were 9 and 7 years old. And remember when we read you can do anything if you have 3 steps, right? Know your outcome, take massive action, adjust as needed. Well, that's what we did as a family when we started this process. Every Sunday night, we'd sit down as a family and we would say, what did we do right? What did we do wrong? What could we do better? And then what did we do right? And then we would create a focus for that week on a specific subject or with a specific technique and really drill that technique into our brains. And it had to be so simple that our 9 and 7-year-olds could do it too. Now remember, these can't be these elaborate techniques that only people who have titles that are longer than their names can understand, right? We need them to be so simple that a preteen, that my 9 and 7-year-olds can understand it. And I'll never forget, the first time I saw my 2 typical sons start using it in our home. One morning I hear this scream come from a back room and I'm thinking, here we go, right? You know what I'm talking about. Escalation. And I ran back in there and my 2 oldest sons, Alec and Zach, who were about maybe 10 or 8 at the time, 9 or 7, something like that, they said, don't worry about it, Dad, we got it. And so I stood back and watched as they diverted his attention to something else. And they held up a couple puzzles that they worked with him on. And they said, Eric, which puzzle do you want to work with? And they started showing them to him in rapid fire. And finally he pointed at one and they opened it up and they poured it on the hardwood floor and messed it all up. And they got his attention away from that thing that was overstimulating him. And I looked at Alec and he kind of waved me off. And it made me so excited to know that even those young kids can understand it because it was so simple. And it hasn't just been my kids. I've got a good friend named John who has 3 sons under the age of 9. And almost weekly he reports to me that he's trying these things and they're working. He's getting results. They're understanding because they're so simplified. The interesting thing about John is he has a son that's 14 by his first marriage. So even with 2 families intermingling and mixing, he's still able in a short amount of time to help his sons understand these simple techniques and principles, and they're able to apply them. Or it doesn't even have to be my oldest sons, right? Just a few weeks ago on an earlier video, my twins, who are now 9 and 7, are 9 years old, my 9-year-old twins, one's a boy and one's a girl, they came walking downstairs and they were so sad. And my wife, Shelley, said, what's the matter? And one said, Eric just called us morons. And they were on the verge of tears. And my wife said, well, you guys are the cutest little morons I've ever seen. And they started smiling, right? And then she pulled them in tight and hugged them. And she said, you know what? And then she shared a principle with them. She shared a technique with them. And they were so excited and they were so happy. And they went back upstairs. A couple of days later, they came down smiling. And I said, what's going on with you? Usually when they're smiling, they're up to something, right? And I said, what's going on with you 2 guys? And they started smiling and said, Eric called us morons. And they were smiling. And I want you to think about that. We don't just tell them, we model that behavior. And then isn't that cool? 9-year-old twins in your home, lowering stress and tension and increasing happiness just by the way they managed a situation. And I want you to think about that real quick, because the vision of that is really powerful. And it sounds obviously like something you can do. I mean, if it's that simple and you know what to do, anybody can do it. And that's the great thing about this. And I want you to imagine that for a minute. Imagine you've got 2 kids, one of them's on and one of them's not, and one of them calls the other one a moron. What happens in your home right now? Yeah, you don't think very long, do you? Fights break out. The stress and tension goes out the roof. You get stressed out. Your kids are stressed out. The world is falling apart and you're saying to yourself, I don't think I can take this anymore. Right? Compare that to my 9-year-old twins who lowered the stress. So it has to be simplified so anybody can do it. My wife and I, our typical kids, our 9-year-old twins, anybody can do it. So that's the second secret. It has to be simplified. Otherwise, it's too hard. And the third secret is this. You need help when it gets hard. You know, the greatest, most simple recipe in the world has little to no effect if you're not guided when it gets tough. And things don't go perfect. They never do. And you need help when things go wrong. And not advice and guidance from experts that don't live your life. Oh, sure, they'll give you what you should do. How do they even know, right? We want expert guidance from people who live the same life we do. Not Fraser Crane or someone who's experienced it or somebody who says, here's what to do but hasn't done it. I mean, we're all flawed. We all have tough days. We all need help sometimes. You don't need somebody just to listen. You need somebody who understands what you're going through and can empathize with you and who's experienced what you're experiencing and has made it through. That's what you need. Somebody that can get you unstuck and move you forward with confidence and faith. You know, a while back I posted a video and I told the story about my son melting down in Walmart when he was 17. And I called it Autism Parents, It's Going to Be All Right. And if you haven't seen it, go slide and watch some more of my videos and specifically watch that one. The reason I tell you to do that is because it went viral. Over 335,000 people, that's 250,000 people, watched this video. And I think it went viral because it connected with people because they've had the same experiences. It connected with them through personal experiences. Now you should know, I didn't share my techniques that I used to manage myself in a way that was best for my child. You know, when they're at their worst, they need us at our best. And I didn't share the techniques I used, but certainly once you know those techniques and you get in those situations, you're prepared and you're ready. And you go into it with confidence and faith. You're no longer afraid to take your kids to Walmart or to the water park or all these different places. You need someone who understands, not someone who just says, don't do that. You know, I remember there was a time when I was really frustrated and I called one of my mentors, Tony. And I said, Tony, here's what's going on. He said, Kyle, you can do this. Come on, man. I know you can do it. And he gave me some real good advice. And I went back to my work and I was ready to go, right? Or another time, I called Sherry. And Sherry's always, my whole life has been a mentor to me. And she sent me in the right direction. And we had an emotional conversation where she put me where I needed to be. And I needed that at those times. And you do too. And you know, I remember I worked with a lady named Julie one time. She didn't even believe it was possible in her family. She thought thriving in chaos just isn't possible in my family. There's craziness in my family. She didn't even believe it. And then after a few weeks, she called me one day and she said, you know what, Kyle? It's working. We're starting to thrive as a family. I can see times when the stress should go up. We're managing it so well that we divert away from those and we keep peace and happiness. She said, you believed in me when I didn't believe in me. I had faith in her than she did, and you need somebody to help you with that. Remember, we're not talking about just information here. We're talking about transformation. I mean, if you want information, go to Google. Type in autism, watch what comes up. There's plenty. With transformation, you need more. You know, I got a call one night from Rich and Nancy, who were having some real issues, and we got on the phone and we started talking about it and went through a few things, and we went through one after the other. By the time we got off the phone, it was 1:30, and I didn't realize that until I got off the phone. And the next morning, I asked Rich, and he says, thanks for staying on the phone with us for so long. You really care, don't you? And I thought, are you serious? Of course I care. That's why we do this. We know what it feels like to be in that struggle, and we know what it feels like to thrive. And we want that so bad for families like ours. Because we know what it means to live a life where you're happy and where there's peace in your home and where your home is a safe haven for your kids and for your typical kids and for you and your spouse or for you and your friends, whomever you decide you want in your home. So those are the 3 secrets. You need a recipe, it needs to be simplified, and you need help. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. If it does, give me a nod your head, maybe hit a heart or something. I can't see it. I'm hoping you're nodding, and I'm hoping it makes sense to you. And it doesn't hurt if you're working with somebody who has a lot of fun and who's really excited for your success. That's a big part of it too, right? So now I want to ask you a question. Do you think you get the outcome you have or other families who have gotten? And I want to say, of course you would. I want to ask you another question. Are you excited but like a bit overwhelmed? I mean, I know we've covered a lot and it's impossible to show you everything. But what I would like to do is tell you what we have done for you. We've created a special package for you because you've watched this video and because we want you to have the success our family and other families have who have plugged into this. Is it okay if I share that with you? I mean, just take a few moments of your time because I don't need this. I'm doing this for you. I can go back to my family and everything's okay. So I want to share with you what we've done to help families like yours get what we have, to get you the same results, to get you the outcome, and the outcome is happiness. So if that's okay, I want to share that with you. So first, I'm going to reach over here and grab something. Immediately, when you get started with this, you get 2 audio programs. The one in front is called Laugh With Me. There's about 70 minutes of audio on here where I tell you wacky, crazy, zany stories about my kids because they have no fear of rejection. They don't care what you think. When Ricky was a little guy, we went to a Chick-fil-A restaurant one time and he saw a little Hindu kid and he licked his finger and went over and rubbed off the spot on the kid's head. These are the kind of things my sons did when they were little because they didn't know any better, right? And I tell you those stories so you can connect with us and let you know your kids are not the only ones doing wacky things. The other one's called Thrive in Chaos. It's the grounding principles that you'll want to listen to consistently as you drive or as you're working, and you get them on MP3 so you can burn them onto whatever you'd like to and listen to them help you start to thrive. It's possible when you get started. We've created for you a 6-week masterclass, okay? I'm going to try to fan these out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And this isn't stuff that's on our Facebook page or blog, and it's not in our insider videos, and they come with worksheets that you fill out. And this is really what gets you going. They cover the grounding principles. We cover the 3 pillars of success that everything we do is built upon. And you start applying tools and techniques immediately. And we don't just send it to you and say, go get them, Tiger, because that's not really what we want for your family. We want to help you get that outcome. So all these videos and the workbook are just resources. And those are that support our weekly calls, right? Every week, sometimes multiple times a week, we're going to get on the phone together, you and I, you and your spouse and I, you and your family and I if you have typical kids. I don't care how many people you invite. We want people to understand this and work together and really start to make this happen. We answer questions, we clarify anything, and we execute action plans. And I want you to think about that for a second. Think about the fact you're on the phone with me, you and I, and really think about that. Do you think I can motivate you? Do you really think I can help you understand the details or give you some insight into how to do this the right way or give you the tools or help you implement? The answer is absolutely yes. And I hear this all the time from partners. We're talking and they're all excited, and excitement is fuel. Right? It's a fuel to accomplish and bring the happiness into our homes. And in some cases, and this sounds crazy, but in some cases, depending on your circumstances, I'll even come to your home for a few days to really take an insight of what's going on so we can customize this program specifically for you. Like I said, these are more of a resource. The tremendous value is in the conversations, the action plans that we execute together. And I could tell you what's importantly, you need to know we're working on this together. You watch these, we talk about them, we talk about the techniques and the principles behind them. And again, information alone is not the key, right? Remember when you learned to ride a bike? I can remember my dad. Now, I got some tissue here because my dad passed away a year ago. But I can remember my dad, when I wanted to learn to ride a bike, he came outside and he held me up and he ran behind me and he said, pedal, balance, lean, lean. And when I toppled over, he said, that's okay. You're getting this. You're going to start flying soon. And that's what I needed. And when I started flying the bike, my world just opened up. It was like I was a new kid. And that's what you get. We're emailing, we're talking, we're discussing, we're reporting to each other. You don't go watch a video to learn to ride a bike. You don't fill out a worksheet or a workbook. You get on the bike and you need somebody running behind you, propping you up, and telling you you're getting this. You're going to be flying shortly. That's really what we need to make this stuff work. And that's why the Thrive in Chaos program works so well. It's not about giving you information. It's about transformation. It's about us working together to get that transformation for you. We give you everything you need to wake up every day excited for the day. Can you imagine? I wake up excited. Can you imagine? And let me tell you something. I must be the world's eternal optimist. But the good thing is, it's a communicable disease, right? It's hard to be around me and not be optimistic and hopeful and faithful, because I am not going to let that happen. Wake up in the morning and really manage anything that comes along with faith and courage. You know, when I was a little boy, I can remember I was scared and worried about something. And my dad said something that stuck. It hit me right between the eyes. He said, fear, worry, and doubt cannot exist in the same mind with confidence and faith. Let me tell you something. I am confident and I am faithful. And I can drill that at you. If we spend enough time together, you won't have a choice by the time it's over with. I'll help you learn to handle stuff properly when it happens. Your son has a meltdown in Walmart? Go watch the video. Watch what happens. Right? I came out of that with confidence and faith. I knew I had done what was right for my son. I was my best when he was at his worst. And that's what he needed from me. And that's what Thrive in Chaos is all about. It's about creating the kind of family you've dreamed about. You know, I'm getting goosebumps when I think about this, because it's so powerful and it matters so much. There's nothing more important than the happiness in our home and our lives. And that's what I want to help you get. So in addition to this 6 weeks of programs, I also give you an additional 6 weeks of master classes. You'll see this 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, right? And these help you cement in what you're doing. And don't kid yourself. This is really powerful stuff here. This training course, this master class, and after those 12 weeks, you get invited to join our Thrive in Chaos Insider Facebook page. Now, this isn't our regular Facebook page. This is inside stuff. You know, we as a family learn new things every week. And you'll see what we're doing inside our family. You'll see what other families are doing to thrive. You'll see how they're thriving. And you get ongoing support and guidance. And if you feel like it, and this is really where it gets exciting for me, where my head's like new members thrive, like you are when you are a new member. It's like a support group on steroids. All the people who are there understand what Thrive in Chaos is and are living the life that we all want. And that's how we solve all those problems we discussed. You get a simple, proven plan, and we're there for you to ensure your success. It was built and taught by a family like yours we have two on the spectrum. One is more classic autism, not very verbal. The other one is higher functioning. And it was built and taught by us, a family just like yours. And we're actually using it now. It's what we use on a consistent basis to create and keep the kind of family we wanted when we had that dream, when we first got married, of a happy, loving, kind family. We're happy and we're thriving. And it's an incredible thought. I mean, I wish you could come into our home and just watch for a couple days. I wish you could see the interaction. People that come into our home, and when they leave, they always tell me, there's a different spirit in your home. It feels different. And it's because there's respect and kindness and caring, even as we raise our kids on the spectrum. You know, a couple weeks ago, I posted a video. My wife is terribly shy. You'll very rarely ever see her. And one night we couldn't go out on a date on a Friday night, but I really wanted to go out on a date with my wife. So I put on some music in the living room and we were dancing. And I held up the camera and I tried to get her. And if you go back and look, you'll see I can't remember what the video is called, but she has a beautiful smile. And you can see how the kids are jumping around in the background having fun. I wish you could see how our family thrives. So I guess here's the question for you. Here's the question to answer for yourself. How would you like to work directly with me and make this a reality for your family? If that sounds good, I've attached a link to this video. If you'll click on that link, you can schedule a call with me. We want for you what we have, but there is a catch. You know, I'm about to get hammered with requests for calls right now. So if you're interested, make sure you go and just click on that link and put time. The other catch is, this is so hands-on, we only have room for 3 families right now. So I'll have to take this live video down because there's probably going to be thousands watching it. If you've watched some of my other videos, sometimes they go 1,000-2,000 views. This one's going to hit that too, and there's going to be people hammering me to schedule calls. So if you're interested, go schedule a call. I'm going to have to take this video down. And if you're feeling like this is a good fit for your family, please click on there and schedule a call with me. If you wait too long, I may not be able to fit you in, and I'll apologize in advance. But if you're interested, I really want to talk to you. Now, if you're not serious, let's thoughts for people that really are, and that I sure would appreciate you doing that for me. You know, I think back a little bit, and I want you to remember when I went under that pecan tree. You know, that was a moment when I felt like God tapped me on the shoulder and said, there's a better life for you. And if you're feeling like that a little bit right now, if you feel like God is tapping you on your shoulder, I really want to talk to you. Schedule a call. Click on the link, schedule a call, put in a time. I want to be a resource for you. Sometimes we can be answers to each other's prayers. And if that's the case, schedule that call with me. I want to you. You know, and remember when we talked about how we'd spend all that money and all those years and made all those mistakes dealing and all that stress we went through. You don't have to go through that. Just plug into what we've created, and you can save all that time, and you can save all that money, you can save all that. The truth is, this really is a shortcut for you. I mean, imagine this. Let's say you call, or let's say you schedule a call, and we talk, and we figure out you're a good candidate. 1 year from now, there's less tension in your home. There's more peace, happiness. Your relationships with your typical kids and your children on the spectrum have improved. Your relationship with your spouse has improved. Your relationship with other people improves. That's one of the side effects I don't even talk about. It's hard to find somebody I don't like now. It's hard to really find people, I guess, that don't like me. And I'm sure it's because of the approach we've taken as a family. It's more relaxed and calm in our home. In your home, you've got increased peace and happiness, and you're living the life you want for your family. Maybe you're even working with me to help other families. You want to talk making your head explode. The minute you start thriving as a family and you realize there's other families you can help, it really becomes a powerful thing in your life. That's maybe what we can be doing together in 1 year. Again, I wish you could see the goosebumps on the back of my neck standing up right now. So that's it. I guess we're done. You know, I hope this has been helpful for you. You know, I hear parents all the time. They say, I love you to the moon and back. And they say, I would do anything for my child on the spectrum. Well, I want to challenge you. If you do anything for your child on the spectrum, do this. Schedule a call with me. There's nothing I want more than to help your family thrive. What it feels like. I felt it this weekend. Friday night, my son calls. Saturday, my son takes his brothers on the spectrum to the dollar store by himself because he loves them. They love him. This morning, my children sitting on the back row, waving at me, smiling at me. Ricky over there, an usher in church, giving me the thumbs up. There's nothing that's more important than happiness in our home. If you do anything, child, do this. It's our mission to help other families thrive. Let us know how we can help your family. If you've got questions, that's a great reason to schedule a call. Do it. Click on that link. I'm all done. Have a great Sunday. I hope to be talking to you. I'll talk to you next time, okay? Keep watching the videos. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.